Hey there, folks. Welcome back to Laws of Creation. I'm Ben Kernion of Sonic Acrylic, here to bring you the tips, routines, habits, and tricks of excellent artists who also value living healthy lifestyles so we can learn how to make great stuff while also feeling contented. So I'm here with Miss JAKIMAC. Jackie is an excellent artist in multiple fields. So
Thank you.
definitely. Jackie, can you tell us like a 5-minute bio of what you've done so far in life?
Sure. I would say that I'm most widely known for a leather accessory brand that I had, JAKIMAC. So that brand was called JAKIMAC, so people know me by that name. And I had that for about 6 years. I still kind of do it on the side in LA. And then, let's see. I also have a background in graphic design and marketing. So I worked for a number of e-commerce, fashion brands, lifestyle brands in Los Angeles, and LA area. And what else do I do as an artist? I'm a painter. So I actually have an art show this weekend at the Brewery Artist Lofts, and do kind of these large scale, some small abstract paintings. Yeah, so I would say marketing, creative direction. I've done all sorts of stuff, directing, marketing campaigns, photo, video stuff, and
Nice.
managing creative teams, and then managing my own brand. So
Right.
I think professionally that would kind of sum me up. Fashion designer, creative director, and painter.
Gotcha.
Those three things probably are the core.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So where are you from originally?
I'm from Chicago, Illinois.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Nice.
Grew up there, then moved here to LA.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So working within those three fields,
Mm-hmm.
are there any specific things you do to be able to balance doing those things at the same time, or are you rotating different focuses?
I think that depending on the time in my life, like it'll vary. When I've done like marketing roles as art director, creative director, those are typically like full-time roles. So then that becomes like more of like 80% of my creativity, where I have like less time to do painting or to even do like other creative hobbies like making music, and it's less time to do the fashion brand. And then when I was doing the fashion brand, I did that full time for many years. So it kind of like, depending on where I'm at in my life, and kind of things shift based on what I need, or if I need more financial support, I'll kind of choose one or the other. So it always seems to shift, but I think a balance is like what I strive for, to have like equal parts of all three. That would be amazing.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But knowing what to do, you feel like it's like an awareness level of knowing like naturally where to shift to because of those different factors. Is that right?
Yeah, that's a good, interesting question. I mean, sometimes, like I said, it's out of necessity. Like I found myself in these roles because I needed the financial support, or like the full-time income. But a lot of times when I'm in those roles, I'll notice like I feel out of balance because I'm giving so much to others. And then I kind of know like an internal calibration, or like, I'll feel a bit more stressed, or like I'm lacking something, which is usually like not being able to do my other sources of creativity or other routes. So then I'll have to correct it, or either leave a job, or it'll just so happen that the job decides to lay me off at that time when I'm feeling it's becoming overwhelming, and the universe kind of works itself out that way. I was thinking of leaving, and then, they wind up letting me go. And it's like, oh, okay, well, this is how it's meant to be.
Right. And it also is like, like the skills just building over time, like it has to inform it. Does that inform it to an extent too? Like, because when you're doing all these different things in jobs, you're gaining these different skills. Does that factor into where you go at all too, or is it like uncovered? Because you have all these different creative hobbies.
Yeah.
Did they all kind of come together? Have you all been doing them all since you were young, or did they unfold themselves over time?
I think like when I was a kid, I always used to draw, and I played piano, and I mean, I didn't really like, take photos or like manage teams when I was a kid, but like
Right.
or I did like certain things I would do as a kid. Like I remember like this is kind of a funny thing, but it was this trendy thing in grade school. You would like make these little like animal keychains out of beads.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to bring them to school and like sell them to my friends. So I even had like a little business
Right.
when I was a kid. So I just kind of always was doing that. And I think like when I came to LA and started the fashion brand, that was a really good use of like all my skills together. So I was like designing, but then also like building websites and learning how to do things like email marketing, social media, and then also working with people, like hiring models, working with photographers, working with stylists. So I think like that job was a really good way for it to all to come together. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even think about it at the time. It was like looking back where I was like, oh, when I did that, that really allowed me to use all different skills I had, having my own brand.
Right.
In different ways. Yeah.
Heck yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. When doing the e-commerce stuff, what platforms were you using for that, for your actual store?
So for JAKIMAC, I ran it on Shopify. So Shopify is I feel like I'm gonna like totally endorse Shopify right now.
Fuck
but
yeah.
I love Shopify. I fucking love Shopify. Like I've been using them for like 7 years, and they keep evolving. So I love Shopify. Highly recommend it for anyone who's starting an e-commerce brand. They have like starter plans and like crazy plans for like when you grow into a mega multi-million-dollar company. They have plans for that. Right. But it's really easy to use even as like someone who's a novice too to like e-commerce. So I use that. But then they also have apps. So you would use Shopify in collaboration with like Klaviyo, which is an email service, an ESP, email service provider. Right. And then you'd use it with like, I use like a certain app to do like pre-ordering for like a new collection that I'm putting out. So all sorts of apps you can kind of plug into it.
Right. I have a little bit of experience with Shopify, and I agree. It's fucking incredible.
Yeah.
What if you had to distill one piece of advice for somebody who is trying to get into doing some sort of e-commerce thing with their brand? Mm-hmm. What would you say would be the most essential advice you could give to somebody?
I think I would say like make it as easy for yourself as possible. Like think about your market, like who you're selling to, and then look into easy ways for inventory. There's a lot of like print on demand services now where say you want to sell t-shirts or put your designs on a t-shirt. You don't even have to find a vendor for those t-shirts unless you want a very specific design. You could find a print on demand company that will supply the inventory for you. They'll print it for you. So you don't even have to put that upfront cost to buy t-shirts. Right. All you have to do is connect the app through Shopify, through 5 or plus like different print on demand vendors, and you could be running or selling 10 different styles of t-shirts within a day. Right. Because then they'll fulfill it for you. Like you pay the cost. So they say that t-shirt costs $10 with your design on it, and you sell it for $50, you've made a profit of $40. Right. And you don't have to do anything other than facilitate the sale. They'll ship it for you and everything. Right, exactly. Yeah. Make it easier for yourself when you're first starting out. And always like it's I would say like, you know, the less you can spend the better until you're ready to. You know, take one step at a time. Yeah, for sure. Do you when you're doing a print on demand, do you usually order samples, or are you just designing and then using their mock-ups for your usually thing? Order a sample because you just never know. So like I would order one and then see if you like it, and then you can like invest in listing it on your site. Sometimes you can just take a chance, but I would definitely order a sample. Gotcha. Yeah. How did you start finding customers for that to start? So when I moved to LA, I didn't really know anybody or have any connections in the fashion world. Yeah. I was just kind of sitting in an apartment in Beachwood Canyon in Hollywood, like making necklaces at my kitchen table. Hell yeah. Like a drill press like on the kitchen table. Amazing. And like crazy stuff in this like tiny little apartment. but I started doing like markets, like flea markets.
Yeah.
So it's like $50 for a booth. So I was like, okay, this isn't that big of an investment for me to just show up with like a table, 6-foot table, and like lay some jewelry out and see how it goes. And from there, I would start meeting stylists who would want to pull my stuff for photo shoots. And I was like, oh, this is a cool thing. Like, you want to have some like a model wear my pieces? Whoa! Like,
heck yeah.
So I would meet stylists through there, and then customers through there, and that ultimately led to more connections, and then more confidence in like setting up my wares and how to do that, and then eventually investing in larger shows like trade shows where I would meet like vendors and retailers. So
Are most of your sales at those type of physical locations, or were they mostly online? Or what was the percentage there? I
would say combination. At first it was like almost always in person, because like you kind of need to get out there and start showing your stuff and meeting people and figuring out what people like. So I'd say mostly in person, but then over time, once I started to get into retailers and more people knew about my stuff, then they would come to find me online if they liked a piece. So then it became more like, it started with like 70% in person, 30% online, and then it quickly shifted to be the other way around, 70% online, 30% in person, because I started to market to those customers and send emails when I would have sales.
Yeah.
So
gotcha.
More building the e-commerce side of it over time.
Makes sense.
Because then I can kind of, control that inventory a little bit more, and then you have a little bit more data, I guess, because it's all digital.
Yeah. Word.
Yeah.
So are there, and what type of things do you do to get into a creative mindset? Say you're going to go paint or do whatever you want to work on in the moment. Do you have a routine at all?
Yeah. There's one thing I do that I started doing, part of like this book by Julia Cameron called The Artist's Way, but I started journaling like every morning, like 3 pages. And I think that really helps me get into the creative mindset and kind of get out all of the noise and chatter of, oh, I feel stressed today, or I feel anxious, or I feel really great, or whatever you're feeling that day. Kind of get out all that like internal chatter to kind of set you up for success for that day. And I always make sure to exercise, like do something like good for myself before I sit down and make work.
Right.
If I'm feeling like any sort of like pressure, outside pressure from whatever's going on in my life, I find I just really can't be creative. I'll go take a walk, and then I'll go back to working on editing a photo or sitting down in front of a canvas. So yeah,
that makes sense. It sounds like a lot of you have a lot of awareness going on, which is important, obviously, for being. Like, that's the thing. Like it's exactly what you're saying. If you find yourself in a state that doesn't feel conducive to be doing what you actually want to be doing, I just couldn't agree more. It's so important to just take an action that will get your chemicals back to somewhere that can be productive.
Yeah, and it can honestly, sometimes you just need to take an entire day and just like step away from stuff. I've found like I think that as artists, like we can put a lot of like pressure on ourselves to like do something in a certain time frame or to like be super productive every single day. And some days you really just need to, I don't know, go to a nature preserve or hike up a hill, like, or just, I don't know, binge watch something on TV and then just get up again and do it the next day. Right. I mean, I don't advocate binge watching things because,
but if that's what the muse is calling for,
but yeah, true.
Like if that's what you're hearing, like that's what you want to do, then listen.
Yeah, listen to it. I think it's important. Like your body knows what you need. Like if you feel stiff, move. Your body knows what you need. Your mind might not always know, but if you really listen, I think you can tune in and figure it out.
What does your morning look like? So what time? Like, do you do the morning pages before you exercise? Is that usually what happens?
Typically, yeah. I'll get up. I'll make, sometimes I'll do coffee in the morning, but usually I like to do this like mud water, which is like, it's like chai tea, cacao, and like some mushrooms. I do that because it's like not like a big jolt of energy like coffee. So I'm kind of like a little bit more mellow, and then I'll write the pages. and then I'll go take a walk or go to yoga and then
Gotcha.
start my day. Or if I'm like low on time, I'll get right into my day and then do an evening yoga. But I find I'm at my best if I journal, exercise, do the day.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Right on. Are there any specific prompts you use for your journaling?
I think I like to do kind of like a check-in, and then I also have a gratitude practice. So it's like, what am I grateful for today? And I'll name like 3 to 5 things that I'm thankful for. It could be as simple as, you know, I got sleep last night, or like I really love my mom. Gratitude I think is super important, and I try and say like thank you like every single morning, because it's really easy to get into that mindset of like I don't have enough, or I haven't gotten to where I want to be at this age or at this stage. So love that. I think that's really helped me to remind myself, and like especially as artists, like we really do have a lot. We have a lot of the things that we already need, and we might not recognize that. So that's a good prompt that I do. And then I think I just do kind of a check-in. Like sometimes I will talk to myself and be like, Jackie, how are you feeling? Like, what are you feeling today? Like, are you angry? Are you happy? Are you joyful?
Yeah.
I don't use the feelings wheel, although they're really fucking cool.
Oh, I haven't seen those ever.
It's like this wheel, and you can kind of like pinpoint the emotion.
That makes sense.
Should use that more, because it really can kind of show you exactly like.
So you just move it where you're feeling at the moment.
Yeah, it has like base feelings, like happy. So it's like a core. In its core, it's like happy, sad, anxious, and then it like subdivides those into like more specific feelings. So you kind of follow it out to like.
That makes sense.
Cool. Something like that. It's been a while since I looked at it, but
cool.
It can be helpful. So I'd say like a check-in, gratitude, and then I always like to just touch base with myself on like whatever project I'm working on. You know, like how's that going? How am I feeling about that? Do I need a break on that project? Or
gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you set objectives for your day based for what you're doing with the project as well when you're journaling?
I should.
I mean, I don't know.
I should. I do set like kind of some timeline goals. Like one of the goals I have right now is though I do those kind of 3 major things. I'm really studying music right now. It's like a new interest for me creatively. So one of my big goals is to record a song by the end of the year, which is like very scary for me, but that's my goal. And so I kind of check in, like, where am I moving towards this, or am I feeling scared of it still? And what do I need to do to not be scared of it?
Yeah. So really checking in with the emotions of the goal. That's interesting.
Yes.
So like is it a visualization within that? Like you're visualizing, or is it just like straight just emotional state of like seeing the words?
I think, I guess I do check in with the emotions and like how I'm feeling about it. I would say like visualization is super important. And just kind of like thinking of like, if I was to record a song at the end of the year, like that goal, what would that feel like once I do that?
Yeah.
Or like, how do I know that what is true north that I've actually accomplished that? Is it just getting a draft in Logic, or is it putting it on Spotify? So I don't know yet, but I kind of need to set that visual goal. That's a good point. I should probably do that. But mostly it's the emotions, and it's like, how am I actually going to accomplish this one action at a time? Yeah. Because I think that's what I deal with mostly internally when I'm trying something new, is like, why am I afraid to do this? Or why am I feeling like I haven't made as much progress? Or if I've made progress, congratulating myself for that. And then knowing how to push it further, I guess. Right. But yeah, visualization is super, super cool. I do have like a vision board where I've like printed out things, and I'll look at that. Nice. That helps.
Heck yeah. The comfort zone, like I think it's really interesting. Stretching yourself in any direction out of the comfort zone obviously is so necessary. Yeah. But especially when going into something that like is a newer field for you, or like trying anything new, I feel like it is extra emphasized, that anxiety that initially comes with it. Yeah. But
Oh, yeah.
Exactly what you're saying. Getting familiar with that feeling, and like just mindfulness towards that is incredibly potent, and it's so important because we need to be moving towards those things.
Yeah.
To truly unlock our potential. So I love it.
Yeah, or like fake it till you make it. Like I remember, I don't know, like I have this goal, but I remember like I took a trip to Nashville like September 2021, and I like had this mindset that I had like already made it as a musician. I just like got on that plane holding a guitar, and people were like, "Oh, are you performing now?" I was like, "Not yet." So I just kind of like already had that mindset and like that visualization that I was going to get myself to Nashville somehow and start making music.
Right.
A year before I actually moved there.
Right.
So I don't know.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That seems so innate, that story, like, because you just know it. Like you said
just know it, yeah.
You know it. Have
you ever had that feeling where you just know you have to do something?
Every day. Because, I don't know, it's just being aware of what is true to your nature. Like, I don't know, there's certain things I just could not do. And so just take those actions. Right. Obviously, there's some days where I'm like, this doesn't feel actually like I have self-doubts from time to time, but still at the baseline, this is going to happen because I want to do it. Yeah. And I'm going to take the actions. Like you said, every little action, like you can get in touch with every little step of the way. Yeah. Then there's a route. Yeah. As long as you don't get hit with a fucking piano falling on your head or something, like a crazy death or something like that.
I mean, sometimes chaotic things happen.
Yep.
For me, when something like ridiculous happens, like I break my foot or I don't know. Usually it's like foot injuries for me. Yeah. But that's kind of like a sign to me saying like you're not on the right path. From the great creator, whoever, spirit in the sky. Like when something like that happens to me, it's kind of a signifier for me to slow down and be like, you need to pivot.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Signs. That's an interesting one. People have, like, I personally don't think, like, try to avoid giving them too much significance because I feel like they can just become influential and take you away from like a route you're on. But there have been different times where I felt the opposite of that. So you're like, you're on the camp, taking the signs. If you were to have something like that happen to you, something falls on your foot, how immediate do you change your route? Or is it like,
I think
the drasticness of it matters?
Most of the time I don't know why it's happened, and it takes a while to like reflect, and then you've got that healing process. For me, it's because I'm such a physically active person. I think that these things or these like pushes in new directions tend to happen in like physical accidents. I don't know. So it's like,
gotcha.
Then there's like rest period after that because I have to heal from this physical thing that's happened to me.
That makes sense.
And then during that period is like reflection. So I don't know right away. Sometimes, but most of the time it's like takes a couple months.
That's interesting. The active aspect of it. Like, cause if you're always going and moving that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So when you're actually creating something, so when you're playing an instrument, painting, designing, what does that feel like to you, or what does it feel like, and what does it look like? Like, what are the actual processes of what you're doing on a conceptual level?
What does it look like? Let's see. I'll use painting. Since that's fresh on my mind, since I've got a show this week. So
heck yeah.
When I get into that process, a lot of times, like I've been painting abstract. So with that, it's more about a study of the medium itself and kind of, I don't know what the end of the piece is going to look like most of the time, pretty much all the time.
Gotcha.
So like that conceptual process for me is just kind of honestly feeling whatever emotion I'm feeling that day, or whatever that texture or that paintbrushes kind of wants to do. So that's what that process looks like. It's just really being in the moment, being present. It could be influenced by whatever podcast I'm listening to or whatever music I'm playing while I'm painting, or I'm in complete silence and I just hear like trucks going by or like birds outside. So I like to just be very present when I am painting and allow that to just kind of happen.
Gotcha.
And then at a certain point, I'll stop, come back to it. But that's what that process looks like. I just kind of want to not think when I do it. I try to just really be present and not. Yeah, I think that's why I love painting so much, is because I don't really have to think when I'm doing it.
Right.
It's a meditation almost.
Right. Mm-hmm. Is it so you're kind of flowing? It's flow state.
Flowing is a great way to describe it. Yeah, flow state. The paint's actually flowing out of the tube, or the brushes,
right?
Like brushing on the canvas. For a while, I realized, like, when I was painting, like before I really made the decision to like study music and pursue this new kind of creative path, I was painting these like sound waves, and I didn't even know. And I step back from it. I was like,
That's
whoa,
hilarious.
I'm actually painting like sound waves, and became like a theme. It was really weird.
Are you going to use those for album covers?
Maybe. That's a good idea. That'd be rad.
Heck yeah.
That'd be cool.
That's so cool how something like your subconscious speaks before you even realize what's in there.
But every medium is like super different. I think like when I'm doing digital stuff, like designing websites and doing e-commerce stuff, I do a lot of research. So with that, it's pulling cultural references, other brand references. So that's like a whole different, more like in-depth process of research before I even start designing. Versus like painting, it's like,
oh, interesting.
Throw it all together, mess it up, break it apart, stitch it back together. Versus like digital is very like one step after another.
Yeah.
And research, yeah.
So if you're gonna make a new design for clothing, what does the research look like going into that? Like what ways do you dissect the cultural stuff?
I mean, I try to not look at what's trending on social media, but it's hard not to. You know, doom scroll and like watch what's trending as far as in the fashion accessory world. Mostly I design from the desire to have something in my wardrobe that doesn't exist. So it's just kind of like a personal,
gotcha.
Like I would like this wrap piece that goes around and fits with this outfit, or I don't see a belt that looks like that, or so it's mostly just from a desire of like how I want to express myself.
Gotcha. So that's different. What you were talking, were you talking about that when so for the e-commerce stuff, are you not talking about those designs? Because didn't you just say like... Oh,
like I was kind of talking, because I do so many things. It's way too many creative things. I was kind of talking more like graphic design, or like designing the website itself.
Gotcha.
Which is still a type of design, but it's different from like designing a wearable piece. This is like more like, the two-dimensional internet design, like from a website, or what the mobile website's going to look like.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that stuff is like people respond. I feel like because you're working with like maybe a mass of people, even though there's niches obviously you're getting into. Yeah. People are just so familiar with certain formats. So having something that's like familiar to somebody on a level of like scrolling to view stuff.
Right.
I get that. It makes sense. It's important to have something that's more standard. But I do, So, but it sounds like the design of clothing is very similar to the painting. Yeah. And that, like, it's more in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like, I mean, sometimes I'll just, I haven't really designed a new piece, accessory in a while, because I've been focusing more on the painting, and working like full-time, e-commerce creative director jobs, and now the music. But, I would just sometimes go to the fashion district in downtown LA and like look for a cool material, and then be inspired by that and take it home and put it under the sewing machine and just kind of mess with it.
Gotcha.
Or hammer some rivets into it, strap it around the mannequin. So sometimes, it's similar to painting. We're just inspired by the material itself. Yeah. And then the piece kind of designs itself just based on that.
Well, yeah, they're both visual arts, which shows graphic design, but that makes sense. Yeah. That's cool.
I mean, I've had people, like when I was working for like big retailers, of course, they would sometimes like send photos of things they've seen. Be like, can you make this for us? Be like, no, I can't make that, but I can make a version of it that's my own. because you've sent me like someone else's like work,
right?
Because they're like, we want something like this, or but I try not to ever. I mean, we all design from something else that we've seen. Like, nothing is really original. It's always inspired by something else.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
do you have an absolute favorite piece you've ever designed?
Let's see. My most popular piece is called the Wrap Harness, and it's basically this piece that you wear over your shoulders, and it kind of looks like suspenders, but then it wraps around your waist. So it'll like cinch your waist. It's cute, and you can wear it like, you can kind of wrap it all sorts of ways. So
hell yeah.
I designed another version of it called the Infinity, which was inspired by shibari, which is like the Japanese art of rope tying. Very sexy art.
Nice.
So that was this classic wrap, and then I redesigned it to call the Infinity Wrap, and I just kind of moved some of the fixtures on it so you could change the size of it, so you could like wrap it, wear it as a necklace, or like wear it as a garter. You can wear it so many different ways.
Oh wow.
So I wanted something that was like versatile. I would say that one's like one of my favorites just because it is so versatile. There's probably 100 ways you could wear it. I don't even know of yet, but
that's awesome. Is that for sale online?
Yeah, right? Yeah, you can find it. I'm taking pre-orders.
We'll link to that.
Taking pre-orders.
There's link there.
Bringing it back for the holiday season so you can find it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What so this art show you're doing at the Art Walk at the brewery, what's that all about?
I am showing a bunch of my painting works that I did during the pandemic. So, there are some like really large scale paintings, abstract ones, but the brewery art walk is really cool. It's like a bunch of artists open up their spaces. I used to live at the brewery, which is an artist community in LA. Yeah, yep. We both did.
Yep.
You're in music loss, which is like
sort of the brewery,
right next door to me.
Yeah, exactly.
It is totally the brewery.
Yeah, but I feel like
you guys are like the outcasts. Like,
exactly.
You have like a separate music space because music instruments like aren't allowed.
Right.
Even though I had them in the
yeah.
But yeah, it's silly. It's like they're like only musical instruments can exist in like 3 floors of 500 lofts.
Yeah, it definitely felt like a battle of the arts for some reason.
It doesn't make any sense to me because I feel like so many people that do visual art also are musicians. So it's like, why are you gonna isolate the musicians and not allow I don't know. Yeah,
totally. I agree. Plus, I didn't hang out too much in the other lofts, but there's so much concrete in that place that like I feel like the soundproofing couldn't have been that bad everywhere.
Yeah.
But that's exciting.
But yeah, I'm just gonna push myself to like show work. I think it's important to show work no matter like where you're at, like even if it doesn't feel totally complete, or it's like you want to make grade A work, but you're at like C or B. Like I think it's important to like push yourself to just put things into the world, even if it's not perfect. Because it's, I don't know, in my opinion, artists like never really finish. There's just like a due date or like kind of a pause time.
Yeah.
So trying to show pieces and get rid of some of the big ones so I don't have to take them home with me to Nashville.
Heck yeah. That's what I was going to ask. How did you transport everything? Did you drive your car?
I kept it in storage here. So I had a friend with an empty loft that was able to store my pieces.
There you go.
So I've never actually moved my art to Nashville, and I don't want to. I want to sell it all.
That's amazing. Heck yeah. We'll see. Well, best of luck. I'm looking forward to seeing it all.
Thanks.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna wrap this up, Jackie.
Okay.
Thanks so much for being on the show.
Yeah.
And
thanks for having me.
Yeah. Let's keep talking here off air.
Yeah, I hope let's
anything
else? Share
else?
some tidbits.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've got so much valuable stuff out of this. Anything else you'd like to say to the audience before we sign off here?
No, not really. I think there was like one thing I wanted to say at one point, but it was like something about, I will say this one thing about like the term baby steps. I feel like we hear that all the time as artists, like just take baby steps. You'll get to where you want to go. I fucking hate that term. And I feel like it should just be replaced with actions, like take small actions towards something. I don't know, that came up and that popped through my head when we were on one of the topics earlier. And I thought I should
Is
just
that
mention
something?
that because it's like baby steps just sounds so
absolutely.
juvenile, and it just sounds like
Yes.
you can do it. Like it's easy because it's not easy to take a step or an action. It's not.
Right.
Like it can be really hard sometimes. So I think I don't know. For me, I'm deleting that from my vocabulary.
I love that.
Replacing it with actions. So that was the one thing I wanted to mention because I remembered it. Yeah.
Heck yeah. And it's worth trying to take big ass steps, honestly, if you can.
Yeah.
But just like not judge yourself on how big they ultimately end up being in each given day. I'm with you. Are there any other kind of mantra? Like that sounded like almost a mantra. Is there anything else you repeat to yourself to keep it going?
I would just say like I try not to be hard on myself. I try to be enjoy the journey. I think that's super important to not be so set on the outcome. So enjoying the journey and allowing things to just unfold as a creator, no matter what you're making, I think is so important. Instead of being so set on like I have to accomplish this by this date. So yeah, I think that's been kind of like a really important thing for me to remember. Yeah.
Nice. Well, thanks so much, Jackie.
Thanks for having me.
For sure. We'll see you later, folks.
Bye, folks.